welcome to the Campfire. There's a reason I have frozen it on the MMOBuff.TV logo. I am not allowed to say anything just yet, so you guys are going to have to hold off while I do a brief introduction. You guys know that we have Screenager here.
Hello.
You know we have Blank here.
Hello, folks.
You know we have Troy, aka Aether, here.
Hello.
Speak a little louder, man.
Hello.
There you go. And I now leave it in your hands to introduce the guest.
So I'm super excited to introduce my new member to our community team, Allie Murdock, who's joined us. She is here at Motiga as our community specialist.
And there you go. There's a surprise.
Hey, everyone.
For some reason, no matter how hard we've tried, Troy just gets quieter and quieter with the sound. I'm like keeping my fingers crossed. I don't know. Because you know, are you a quiet person by nature, Troy?
No.
No, he is not. I can attest to that.
But yes, welcome to our episode 15 called Foundations. We have a couple of things we're going to discuss, but of course, what do we do to any guests we bring onto the show? Blank?
We grill them.
We roast
We
the
have
heck
to
out
ask
of them.
them.
We must.
We troll them.
This is
Wrong
true.
kind of kick.
But yes, so what we're going to do today is we're going to put both of these two into their paces, and we're going to start with Allie first. So,
Okay.
Allie, can you do us a favor, please, and reveal to us 2 truths and 1 lie about you?
Okay. I love hugging people. I love spreadsheets. I think they're the greatest thing ever. And traveling is one of my favorite things. I've been to many countries.
It's obviously got to be the spreadsheets is true, guys. You know it. You just know it. It's got to be spreadsheets. Although poor Troy, his face just kind of went, oh no, no.
Troy, please.
Right. Next up, Troy. 2 truths and a lie about you.
All right. I was a childhood actor. I was born with an extra toe. And I killed Morpheus from The Matrix.
Dude.
You know, I have to say, guys, I'm kind of leaning on the, killing of Morpheus to be true. It has to be true.
I don't know what's up and what's down right now. I'm so confused.
I'm just lost.
Okay, well, taking things into a little bit more serious note, I would like to speak with you first, Troy.
Yeah.
And let us go with our question all about hindsight. So with hindsight being 2020, can you tell us about a decision that you've made where if you look back now with the experience you have under your belt now, you would have done differently and why? And this involves communities and guilds.
Yeah, so I think when I look back on mistakes that I've made, probably the toughest lesson that I've learned is not to soften the rules of engagement when it comes to community management, expectations that you have for the community, just because someone made a mistake, that you really need to adhere to a certain rule set, a certain level of fairness, and if you change those rules for individuals, it basically weakens your entire kind of social contract that you have with your community. Looking back, I can't speak specific to the person, though I know who they are. I changed the rules for this one individual person because I felt sorry for them. Other community folks found out about it, other members of the community, and they were naturally and rightfully so furious. I think looking back on that, sticking to my guns, or then making a change to those rules to I guess, make it fair for everyone is probably what I would have done differently, rather than sort of try to be kind of behind the scenes and secretively change the rules for this one individual. It's just not fair, and it creates a real problem for future trust with your community.
That is a difficult one. What about you, Allie? Same question.
That's tough. And actually, my answer is going to be kind of similar, but from a more guild community experience. When I was younger, I was the leader of a 25-man raiding guild in WoW, and we wanted to be like competing with some of the top guilds, and so we were trying to do these like hardcore encounters, and I took this approach of being very stern and being like, I studied these strategies, let's do it this way because I know that other guilds have been successful. And I was kind of like pretty harsh, I think. And I realized that, people need a good balance of compassion but also stern rules, like what Troy was saying. It's good to have boundaries, but at the same time, people need to know that you're human and that, you respect them. And yeah, I think that's the gist of my experience.
I think there's something to be said for trying to figure out that line between being the stern taskmaster or mistress, whichever one you want to go with, versus you can still approach me if you have suggestions and ideas. And that's something that we can definitely go into a little bit later. But let's hit our last question for our roast for the two of you. And I will let you two decide to see how you guys work well together, who goes first for this one. But what we'd like to know from you guys is what is one of the most, because there's always going to be more than one, but what's one of the most memorable experiences that you have had that has given you and your guilds or communities the greatest sense of accomplishment and achievement?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Last year, I coordinated and produced a pretty big tournament that ended with a LAN tournament at PAX. We didn't have actually show floor space, but we did it in a venue that was nearby. And we flew out a team from Europe and a team from North America to compete live on stage. And we had shoutcasters, and it was just this whole great thing. And we had, like 300 seats in the venue, but there was a huge line out the door, and it took a lot of time to coordinate that. But it was just so rewarding. Like, I was in the zone when it was actually happening, and I was just like, if there's any problems, I'll get it, I'll fix it, I'll fix everything. And I was just like running around, sprinting, probably killing myself, falling all over the place. But it was really cool, and just a great experience, and something that I would love to do in the future as well.
Excellent. And Troy?
So my background is working in human services, and so I take a lot of what I learned in nonprofit work and brought it with me to working in online community building. I think the one of the moments that I had, probably that I felt the best about, was an event that I put together when I was working on WildStar. It was called the Arc Ship. We brought people in to hang out with us, to have panels and sit down and talk with the developers directly. In addition, we did a bunch of other stuff. Sorry, hi guys. People know I'm live streaming, so they're shooting with darts and making faces at me.
A brilliant working environment.
It is, yeah, it really is. I guess that's what I get for sitting in the middle of the office streaming live. But really, it was a culmination of a lot of different experiences that I had in the nonprofit world, where you were able to, for instance, facilitating discussions between troubled youth and police officers from their neighborhood. It's a parallel because, generally speaking, in the past, there has been this wall between what happens on the community side of things and what happens on the dev side of things. And it's up to the community manager to be the talking head and to be the person who is, I don't know if you saw that dart, but to be the talking head and to be the facilitator of dialogue. I wanted to break down those walls, and I wanted to have direct contact, not just with people who were in love with the game, but people who had some serious reservations about PvP concepts, about guilds, about social things, and it was a really successful event. It was so successful that I took that with me really across the globe, and invited people to come be a part of that kind of stuff. Really one of those moments where I'm like, this is how you do it. I've cracked the code.
Okay, couple things before we go a little further. It seems that Allie has gotten louder. So she's now louder. And poor Troy, I think some of our viewers would like you to kind of eat your microphone just a little bit.
I will eat it.
Yes. Try to get tilt it out as much as you can. Get in there really
I'm
close.
gonna-
I'm actually wondering if it's using that microphone now. We did all the tests, but live stuff happens.
Right.
Okay. Well, so now we've heard a bit from you guys. Now, normally we usually have guild leaders on here or community leaders from behind the scenes, the people who play the games, really, the players are the people who are interested. You two have a different stance, which is going to make the stuff we discuss have interesting, I guess, answers. So perhaps you could take a moment and explain the difference between being, say, the community manager for a game company versus being the one who is representing a guild, or, are there things you wish guilds knew about community managers?
That's a really good question. I'm wondering, okay, how is my audio now? Better? Not better?
I don't know. I'm wondering if it's using, it sounds like it's using a weird mic. It was perfectly fine before, but you keep getting quieter.
It was.
Go ahead, Allie.
Yeah, go ahead, Allie.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe it's using your webcam mic. But as for the actual question, I think there's a different level. I actually think that the two positions are pretty similar because you really need to know how to communicate in both, and in a sense, like, you're speaking for a body of people, and you're also trying to set a good example. But for, I think, a community manager that's, working for a professional game company, it's, there's a certain level of, like, professionalism that you have to exert. And, obviously there's contracts, like non-disclosure agreements and stuff like that you have to be really aware of when you're talking to the public. To put it delicately. And sometimes it can be hard because when you're so intertwined with the development of a game, you have to pick out, like, which things you can talk about and which things you can't. And if you do talk about something by accident, the consequences are probably a little greater than they would be for a guild leader. But yeah, actually, coming from, my background being a guild leader, but also now being a community manager, I actually found that a lot of those skill sets that I learned as a guild leader kind of apply a lot to my job now, and I think the biggest thing is just the communication aspect.
And what about you, Troy? Do you think there's anything guild members or guild leaders or anybody in the community should know that they just don't know?
Yeah, I think there are a few things that they should know. I'm trying to get closer to my webcam in case that's
It's
what's
actually
going on.
sounding better, so it does sound like it's using your
What's going on.
webcam. That's great.
And you get a close-up of this, which is...
Yeah, we get to see your awesome hairdo.
Right? Oh, look at that hair. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so the point, I think, first to speak to the similarities between what community managers do and what guild leaders do, there are definitely corollaries. There are definitely... You got fires to put out, you've got people to take care of, you've got folks that get hurt, their feelers get kind of bent out of shape, and you've got to manage that, and you've got people who enjoy making other people upset, and so, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that goes on, and really important skills that you build as a guild master that, or a guild leader that you could carry on if you wanted to be a community manager. I recommend that, that's a great place to start. That's where I started. But one of the things that I think guild leaders should know about community managers is that we want to hear from you. Now, that isn't always the case for all community managers. I know that there are people who have varying degrees of success in reaching out. I think that that's changing. I think that we're, as a profession, evolving to understand that it's not all about the big mega guilds. Though those are an important part of your social ecosystem, it's just as important to make the connections with the guilds that are just starting, or with maybe multi-gaming guilds and only a few of them have really attached to your game. I think that it's important that as a guild leader, if you are trying to connect with the community, deeds are as loud as words. So reaching out is one thing, but making the kind of noise that makes your community a better place is more noticeable than repeated emails. Every day a community manager comes in, and we talked about this earlier before we were on the air, and we've got tons of email and we are dealing with lots of different things that, like Allie said, we can't really talk about. Sometimes there are some things that are in development, or we've just learned some bad news about a favorite feature, or you name it, it goes on, and sometimes the voices get lost on forums, my least favorite place to communicate with people. Or you've got that email, you want to reply, you want to get to that person, but you can't because you're super busy, and then 3 days later you're like, shit, I should have, I sent him an email and apologize. Ultimately, it's the contribution you make to the community. If you are doing good things, if you're writing great guides, you are hosting a live stream. Back in a past life, I put together a little program that I called Pay It Forward. A lot of people screaming, I want in beta, and that was all the discussion was. So what I thought of one night, I'm sitting at home, and much to the dismay of my community team, I was just like, I'm tired of hearing all of this. Do something good for the community. Do something good for the community and make a contribution. Pay it forward, build something, write a song, draw a picture, whatever it is that you got. If you're an introvert, then, write something up. If you're an extrovert, sing a song and record it. Whatever it is, I don't care what it is, do that, and you'll be considered to be added into the beta. And it just changed the conversation altogether. So that's my long way of saying, send that email and do that reaching out. But sometimes when you do good things within the scope of that particular community, you're more likely than not to get the attention of the community manager.
Excellent. And now we're going to move into the meat of our show, our survival guide. We usually let our guests pick the topics that we'd like to discuss during the survival guide, because most of the time they have an expertise that they bring to the table and they want to share that. In this particular case, it's interesting that the two things that both of you really wanted to talk about was what it takes to actually start a community, what it takes to really build a strong foundation for a community. So what I am going to do is I am going to shut up. I am going to turn to Blank, and I'm going to turn to Screen, and I'm going to say, okay, guys. All right. It's time to flex your muscles.
There they are. They are.
Going on
That time. Let's do it.
What is it? We're not even 20 minutes into the
Release the
show,
trolls.
and they're already out.
And the
All
guests
right.
come out.
And we've had a show in the past about starting a guild. What I'd like for you guys to do is recap, if you can, some of the key points that we made, so that both Troy and Allie know some of the things that we've discussed, and hopefully they can add their input to anything we may have missed or anything they feel should also be brought up. Who wants to go first?
Let me just go back and recap on that previous show so that we don't contradict ourselves. Just give me... right, in fairness, building a community from scratch, what do you need? Time, lots of it. Lots of time. You'll never find that you have enough time to do anything, enough hands, and you wish that cloning technology had been approved by now. You will need help, and you need time. You need lots of it. You need to understand what you want from a community as well. Do you want to have goals? Do you want people just to hang out with? Do you want to be active and help other people? Do you just want someone to talk to and harass? Do you want people to just troll? It depends what you want. If you want a particular goal web community, then you're going to have a lot more organization at the end of the day. You need to understand what comes with a community as well. Depending on what type of community you want to build, You might need things like you might need a TeamSpeak, you might need forums, you might need to do things like recruit people. Do you already have a group of people who you want to build that community with? Do you know what you're going to do with that community? Do you want to go into a game that exists already, or are you building it for a game going forward? Basically, you've got to have an idea of what you want from it, what your goals are, and you need to have a lot of time at the end of the day. And you need to be prepared, as we've said before, when you're building or leading a community, you're the end of the line. You're the last one paid. You're going to be out of pocket most likely for it as well. If you build a community, it's a lot of sacrifice from you, so you've got to be aware of that when you start building a community if you want it to succeed.
Blank?
I'd agree, with most of those, all of them. Want to throw in a couple more things. You want to make sure that you have the staff to be able to accommodate growth. You have to be able to adjust to unforeseen things easily, because if you don't adjust, you're going to watch your foundation crumble, and you're going to want to make sure that your goals and how you plan to get there are well defined, and that you have areas of attack for what you want to do. So whether it like Ed said, whether it's a game or it's a big community or it's a bunch of you're just going to run around and troll everybody like 4chan, that you have all that stuff sort of set up now. So yeah.
Is there anything that you, both Troy and Allie, feel should also be taken into consideration? Now, you guys tend to, as community managers, build for games or for even companies themselves as a whole. I mean, we've already said, as you have already said, Troy, there's a great similarity between being a community manager and a guild leader.
Yeah.
There are definitely things that correlate there. So what else would you guys add for suggestions, advice?
Well, one of the things that I would add to the dialogue is I think that you need to maintain a reputation. It takes a long time to build credibility online because everybody's an expert and it's their first post, and it's and there's a lot of people out there that are really quick to take a big dump on you for whatever reason. For me, it's really important from a studio standpoint that because we can't talk about the game yet. We are working on a very fun game. That doesn't mean much to anybody who doesn't. They want to fast forward and they want to get right in there. But I think for me, it's important. Gaming has changed and evolved in such a monumental way. It's a lifestyle. It is. I know that it informs everything that you guys do. You are in it. You are up to your heads in online community building and games. Mm-hmm. And you have built a reputation over a long period of time that's easy to destroy. So you got to take that into account. People aren't going to come to you for assistance and for the help that Blank was talking about if you're a jackass, or if you're dishonest, or if you are abusive. And there are guild masters out there that maybe aren't the most charming of people, maybe not running the most healthy of organizations, and yet they have a group that follows them. They're not necessarily going to get as much traction as somebody who has a reputation, a foundation that they've worked to maintain, and that has a certain amount of authenticity. You are who you are all the time, and that also coincides with being a rational and decent human to your fellow humans. I find you'll get a lot more success that way, if that makes sense.
It does. And also, you being so much closer to your camera does make you so much louder, which is awesome. And do you have a thought to add to that, Allie?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're starting a new community or a new guild, something that you want to think about is, what are your long-term goals and what are your short-term goals, and how do your short-term goals affect your long-term goals? And, you have to kind of look at the big picture, like, what kind of reputation do I want my guild or my community to have? Like, do I want our community to be a welcoming, friendly community? Or do we want it to be more competitive and, be okay with that and be okay with, trash talking and trolling and stuff like that? There is a healthy balance there, and it's definitely something you have to think about, especially if your game has the PvP aspect or a competitive aspect of any sort. So
I gotta jump in on what Allie said. I think it's crucial that, she's totally right. You have that long-term plan, and you find out what phases you are taking to grow into that long-term plan. You can't jump out the gate and assume that you're going to have all the resources that you need, and you can't assume that your plan isn't going to change, sometimes dramatically, midstream.
I was going to jump on that because one of the biggest things people forget when they start to build a community is to ensure that there is some kind of plan or structure in place for adaptability. And a lot of people forget that just because you started out as 5 friends who liked doing, say, dungeons together in a game, or you liked, headshotting people in an FPS or doing a MOBA, doesn't mean that you're always going to be those 5 people with the same jobs that you're in now, the same family circumstances you're in. Life affects gamers, and as you said, gaming is a lifestyle, and they do impact on each other. So make certain you understand that adaptability can occur, and be okay with that. Be okay with change. The company or the communities and the guilds that I've seen that tend to run really, really hard and then hit a brick wall and fall are the ones who are afraid of change. They're afraid of going, well, we've tried this, it didn't work, let's try something else. But it's also hard to convince the community and the people in your group, we've made a mistake and that's okay. We can recover from these mistakes. So many people want that perfect guild that's already doing all that hardcore stuff that they want to do, or they're known for what they want to be known for. People tend to forget everyone is human. Allie said that earlier. You're human. So
yes, that's very true. And I mean, especially for a game that's live, when you're developing it, it's not done, it's not done, and you want to add more stuff to it, and it can be hard, going from one system to a different system that you just feel like, well, the new system's better, but it's going to be a little jarring of a change because everyone's used to this old system, and maybe it's not the best system, but in the long run, game developers in particular, we have to think about, in the long term, is this going to be better or worse for the game? And usually you go with the things that are better. And sometimes that doesn't always translate immediately, and it just takes time for people to pick up on that. So.
And I also think that it's really easy for developers to forget to apologize. And I think that it applies the same to people who are just creating any kind of a social structure. And if you are the lead, you are the person who is herding these cats in one direction or another. And as you all know, the relationships you build with people in your guild translate into real life. Now more than ever, it is your extended family. And here we are, talking from all parts of the world. And I mean, this is just a different era of gaming. You've got to be flexible and just being ready for that conflict resolution and conflict management, being flexible, and also just a very simple, wow, that sucked and it was my fault and I apologize, is the best way to kind of take the wind out of any fury or rage that's going on because of a bad choice.
So in a way,
inevitably.
Oh, go ahead,
Sorry.
Screen. I'll let you go.
I was gonna say inevitably that's very right. We've just had PAX just now, where loads of people that we all know will have met each other. Some of them for the first time. You just have met Mizva for the first time. You poor man. And we've got there's a WildStar event going on in London next week where I'm going to meet some of my WildStar guildies for the first time. When I recruit people, I will inevitably say to them, don't say anything to anyone you wouldn't say to someone in the street. And that more and more becomes true, as you were saying, Troy, day in, day out, that inevitably something you say to someone, you might end up seeing them in the street later on, because there's community. Game developers have got a much more proactive approach these days with bringing communities together. And having been able to kind of press the flesh and having face-to-face communication with people at conventions.
I agree with that. I mean, something that I think some people who are guild leaders need to remember, be humble. We've stressed this in the show. This is a very common theme for us. If you're a guild leader and you have nobody in your guild, you're not a guild leader, really. Don't forget the people, and don't be afraid to say you're sorry. Really don't.
Yeah.
Can I
yes.
throw a bone in here?
I like bones.
No.
Go for it.
Because I want to throw this at Allie and Troy, and I want to see how much this sticks. Community management. Oh, I know. Community management, if I am looking... I like to do history a lot when we do these shows a little bit. I remember community management being in place for development companies, not for what they're doing now. They were the counter PR. They were the ones that when the forums blew up, it was your job to make people feel better. And what it seems like is we're seeing a transition that, Troy, I applaud you for some of the things that you've done. Have gone to companies and said communities are not just the people who are bitching and moaning in forums, and they are a viable asset. And instead of it just being the marketing team or the PR team who are sitting at the tables with the executives, communities actually finding their way. And this has just happened, I want to say, in the last couple of years, where companies are saying, community management isn't just somebody who we put in here who manages 5 people who watch the forums, but they have a strong power. Would you say that's true in your guys' experience just recently, that this is a shift that we're seeing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, last year I went to MLG Anaheim, and seeing that, seeing companies like Riot supporting, those initiatives, and having all of these people get together, flying from who knows where, just to go and watch some people play video games, is like, it's really cool, and I think community managers are beginning to focus more on supporting those kinds of things and actually developing themselves, doing more engagement through, videos and events and stuff like that.
I will also say that it depends on the community manager. I will say that in my past, just because I'm loud and obnoxious, that the companies that I've worked for hired me because I am an advocate of the players, but I'm also an advocate of the team and carry that balance out as well as I can. But there's nobody that mistakes the work that I do for anything but making sure that we're connecting our developers and our community directly. That's always been my approach. I think that when you think about how community management has evolved, what I will say is that I find it a little nauseating that you have brands that are trying to build community. They're kind of co-opting this relationship building notion in a very, I would say, deceitful way, or not authentic, we'll say. I'm sure there are very, very good people who are running, I don't know, McDonald's Twitter account. But building relationships is not broadcast. Building relationships is that circle of discussion and dialogue. And I think that you have marketing people who are now just discovering that community is important is really bothersome to me. I'm like, welcome to the party. You're 10 years late. We've been doing this for a while now, and I do like there's some wisdom that they are trying to quantify that we've already known. And I've learned from some of the best community managers in the business, some of my favorite human beings that really helped guide what I do as a profession, but I really learned the most from the relationship building that it's a real dialogue between you folks. You are the people that change the course of what I do, dependent upon reactions to certain things. And there's really not a book that says community manager do this. It's really more of I would say a personality, and either you're kind of good at it or you're kind of bad at it.
Well, that's the thing. I was going to say, it goes along the lines of why we do the Campfire. There is no human psychology that is black and white. It doesn't work that way. There are so many shades of gray and even rainbows inside what makes humans do what they do, from motivation down to, how they handle conflict and resolution. And anyone who tries, in my opinion, to make it black and white when it comes to dealing with human beings, like the community must be handled in these guidelines, they're kind of forgetting that. And I hope that, whether you do community management for a gigantic company, whether you do engagement for your tiny little guild of 5 people and you're just running around and you run across somebody on your server, hopefully people remember that humans are varied.
Yeah, and there's a definite balance. I mean, people ask me, what do I do for a living? What's my job? And I'm just like, all the things, everything. Yeah. Because sometimes it's appropriate to react and to engage on the forums, and I think, if you do ignore the player base, for example, like if they're presenting an issue and you can't speak to it, or you're just not speaking to it, then eventually, it can get out of hand. And if you don't address that, then, you have a very angry group of people. Mm-hmm. But some things that you can do to prevent that kind of a situation is actually engaging through, live streams and, blog posts and stuff like that. Just providing content for them to wrap their minds around. And, but like I said, there's a definite balance, because if there are issues with something, you need to pay attention to that stuff.
It just occurred to me, one of the things that I think is really important for a guild leader or a community manager or anybody who wants to be connected to a group of folks, be prepared for people to be jerks to you. I mean, be prepared for them to pick out your flaws, say awful things about you, post pictures of you in the worst way. There's also the fun stuff that happens where you get photoshopped on everything and it's a real hoot. But then there's the mean stuff. People are jerks sometimes, and you need to realize that every flaw, every perceived flaw, and sometimes things where you're like, wait a minute, that's not even close to true, get broadcast and speculated on, and you just have to realize that that's going to happen, and prepare yourself and be ready for that. That it's just part and parcel of being a leader of people. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, and there's probably a myriad of psychoses that make people be cruel to other people on the internet, but it happens. Sometimes it's even funny, but you just have to really prepare yourself for some rough stuff, like the dart that just hit me in the face.
Well, there's that. I think it's also worth mentioning the real way to survive anything is by surrounding yourself with the people who can support you through it. And I think...
Agreed. Sorry. Hold on.
No worries. You've just shot someone live on air. Congratulations, Troy.
It was a assassination broadcast live.
Yeah, but finding the people to surround yourself who have either the same goals that you do for the community or what have you, or are willing to work with you for goal-wise, is so important. And
Agreed.
There are going to be times. We've had Katamari point out, thick skin's a must. Sadly, thick skin isn't the only thing. I mean, you can't be completely... hold on. You're about to be held at ransom.
Is this thick skin for being shot? Or
for being shot by...
For being shot at, yes. But yes, it's the thick skin side of things. You can't protect yourself from a thick skin from everything. Someone can say something, and it's just that one thing that caught you on that one day that was just so bad, and they slipped in through the defenses. Do you have any suggestions for anyone who has gone through that in their community? Like maybe someone has said something that's just hit them just wrong.
Like an air dart.
I definitely have some advice, because I actually went through this rather recently where I was being accused of being lazy or, not doing anything. And, that was like, I had a couple people saying it to me, and I was like, wait a minute. Like, you guys, maybe you just don't see everything that's happening back here. So I think one thing that I took out of that was that it's very true. You need to keep those that support you and understand, the things that you do close, because they can tell you, like, reinforce the idea that, wait, no, you are worth something.
Yeah.
And, everyone is human. Like, there is a certain level where it's like, wait, I do so much stuff, and you do want to be recognized for that, but at the same time, you can't really always expect that, because not everyone understands everything that happens. And sometimes you need to just be okay with that. You need to just be okay, well, that person actually just doesn't understand what's going on in the background, and that's okay. And they can feel that way for however long they want, but that's just the reality of the situation.
I think also it helps to compartmentalize what it is you're dealing with. I've built this skill, I'll tell a quick funny story. I built this skill of sort of filtering out all the expletives and all the, Dianifiers and all that stuff to get to the kernel of what a person's trying to say. And then I'll go, oh, yeah, okay, so I'm reading this email on a prior game that I'm working on, or that I was working on, and they brought up an actual real issue. Now, they brought it up with a bunch of, this designer should be fired and all the things that you hear. This is a slap in the face and blah, blah, blah. But their point actually was really solid. And so what I did is I cut and paste the particular post, sent it off to the designer, but I forgot to strip out all of the mean stuff. And this person was just like, I hate the internet. I hate making games. I'm like, I'm going to find out where this person lives. I'm going to come, and at first I was like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, this is some good feedback. And he's like, my mom is a nice woman. And I was like, oh, I forgot to strip out the other stuff because, that is, you get used to that kind of stuff. Now, I do want to say something. When I'm talking about abuse or people being mean to you, I'm not talking about people who disagree. I think it's hugely important, and I actually love the people who disagree more than I love the people, well, not more than I love people who are nice and kind, and everything I say is fantastic and all that good stuff, but I'm learning more from the people who are critical, even if they aren't being super nice about that critical, feedback. That is a hugely important aspect of managing any community, especially if you're a guild leader or a community manager. You have to have a venue for people who are cranky to get it out of their system, and sometimes they're right. But I'm talking about people who are actually cruel and mean. That's a tough one sometimes to wrap your head around, and you just gotta be prepared to ignore some stuff and don't engage. Like, literally, don't feed the trolls. But when you're a community manager, you have the power, and as a guild leader as well, to get rid of them. It doesn't mean they're going to stop talking.
Yes. Go
Sorry.
ahead. I was going to bring in a question from the audience, but go for it.
Cool. I was going to throw in a question of my own, just from some stuff that happened today, actually. Talking about feeding the trolls, how difficult can it sometimes be as a community manager and as a guild leader, Troy or Ali, to see these sort of problems coming, these sort of people coming? Because I've had experiences, and like just today, where I spoke to someone on Twitter trying to have a genuine discussion with someone that went from a genuine discussion, I replied to it not thinking that it was going to blow up, and then they just turned like that, and so I ended up having a savage trolling on the other end of the conversation without expecting it. Is that something that you learned to smell coming? Yeah,
actually, you kind of can pick out the person that's going to flip out. You kind of know, you can smell it coming sometimes. I often find as well that there are venues where I'll take a stand and take a position on anything. But when it comes to the work that I'm doing or my job as a community manager, I don't often come into the conversation. The position that I take is I'm here to listen to you, and that's what I do. I find that it really helps me sidestep the friction and the fights. If I'm here to listen.
That's a big part of why I like the communities that I'm involved in currently. I mean, there's a line that we have. We agree to hear anything you have to say. Bring it to us. I don't care what, but we do not promise to agree with what you have said. But we will hear anything you have to say. You could tell us about your dog. You could tell us about the price of tea in China. Don't care.
Yep.
But don't expect us to 100% agree with you all the time. That's not the point.
One of my
Yeah.
favorite things to say is I wouldn't get super pissed off about this particular situation because we're going to have about 14 or 15 more, so you're going to want to save up your energy for the next thing that's going to piss you off because I promise we'll do it. So,
Yes.
Yeah, it's really important to have an open mind when you're communicating with people, especially as a figurehead of your community or your company.
Not everyone says something the same way. Someone can say, I really like that feature. Someone could say, that feature is amazing. I mean, it's all a matter of perspective and how people communicate.
Yeah.
And everyone communicates differently. But here's a random question that has come in from our viewers. This is from Robots Hate Me. So a slight connection there to you guys. But no. As a past guild leader, I've always held the position that you literally can't stop someone from leaving your guild. And I've always been okay with that. Should I be okay with that? I mean, is that an okay thing to be okay with? I will tell you from my perspective, you can't control people. You have to be willing to adapt, and sometimes that means saying goodbye to somebody.
Yep. I think the advice that I would offer is it a person or is it many people? People come in, people go out. And I think you should always, I think it's a healthy position to take. People are going to go, and that's just, wish them well and thank them for their time and invite them back, of course, if they're, not rabble-rousers or troublemakers. But if you've got multiple people leaving for particular reasons, you might want to evaluate what's going on there. There might be an issue that you're not quite seeing, and it might not even be with you.
Oh, come on. Every issue that ever happens is always the fault of the guild leader or the community manager, right? Right?
That's true. That is negative.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. If there's like a mass exodus from your guild, I think it might be time to reflect on how you're leading it. But I think there is a balance there too, because there's a difference between people being dissatisfied and saying, I'm leaving your game or I'm leaving your guild, and that's all they say. It's good to communicate with them and just be like, what was their problem with, or did you really just find a game that you actually just like more? And sometimes that's okay. Like, there's tons of games out there, and I myself play many of them, and so like, being okay with people leaving, but also being okay with accepting feedback and stuff is really important.
Allie, that's a really good point. I think almost considering it an exit interview of sorts.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some
Lessons
wisdom there
learned.
for you to learn, what's going on with them, and maybe they'll just say, I got crazy stuff going on in my life, or I just don't want to play this game anymore, or whatever it might be.
Yep.
I think that's an interesting thing to kind of add to your leadership toolbox.
I'd have to completely agree.
I'll toss another one in there too.
People want to respond, but yes, go ahead.
Exit interview and grievance policy. Someone's leaving on their way out, just be like, hey, listen, tell me what's up, what the deal is. Good to know. Don't want to harass you. You can even send me an email if you want. And grievance, if somebody's like, I'm just having an issue, it's with the raid leader, it's like, all right, open door policy, bring it in, let's talk through it, what the deal is. You might get told, there's nothing I can do for you, that's the way that the cookie crumbles, or it might be like, there's an integral problem here, let's reach out and find out what it is. But those two things in your toolbox are going to make attrition and people leaving at least a little bit more controlled, and you'll be getting feedback on their way out, and potential you may actually be retaining people because you have those in there. So,
and identifying problems early so that you're not finding out, surprise, someone on your, someone in your leadership tree is, being abusive or what have you.
Exactly.
Right.
And
Well,
Robert points out, Robots points out, the problem is most time people leave without telling you. If you let people know that there is a policy in place and that you would like to hear things, it can actually make a huge impact. But go ahead, Screen, and then after this, we do have to address the Campfire story that was sent in for this episode.
I was going to say exactly the same thing you were, just point out the fact that comes back to what was said in chat, and that open communication with your guildies is really important.
It's vital. And sometimes just simply saying, I can't tell you, you just have to trust me, can be okay as long as you've earned that trust. And someday, ask me about that story. Okay, so our Campfire story time. This is where we have people like you lovely people, who send in stories or questions or bring us scenarios and say, what would you guys do? How would you handle this? Do you have advice? Now, as we said, we're human. We're going to see things in different ways, but we hope that by sharing our input, our own personal experiences, you guys are able to take that and add that as something else for you to use to make decisions for yourselves. So this came from, and I quote, unable to come up with a suitably funny name. They had requested to remain anonymous, but this is the name that they have chosen to represent themselves. They say, my guild is small, and you all mentioned reaching out to various game developers, going to conventions in a previous episode. Does size matter when reaching out? Also, we're
blank.
Hold on.
Fine.
Hold on. There's a little more to this. Also, we're a bit nervous about contacting a game company. Do you have any suggestions? Who wants to jump in on this one?
I
I'm
got
gonna
you.
go get a beer. Well,
Yeah.
well, he doesn't.
So, I'm going to give you a couple of the tools that I have, and hopefully they help for unable to come up with a suitably funny name. First things first, I would not worry about the size. The community managers themselves or game developers are going to decide if they're looking for your sort of feedback, if they're looking for you to come in and do something in their testing, whatever you may be looking for. That's another part. You're normally on the expo floor, they don't have a lot of time because there's lots of stuff going on. Unless you snag a specific dev, like a combat dev, or the CMs are normally running around like crazy because they're making sure everyone's going there. But I would try to grab a specific one for what you're looking to do. Do role play. Try to grab Pappy. If you do combat, try to grab the combat guy, or maybe even somebody who does whatever it is. The next one is get yourself your card. Have your guild information. Have an email on there. Have whatever sort of easily identifiable. People put all sorts of stuff into this. Who you are, what you do, where to find you. Be able to give them out. It makes it very easy, especially when you need to make a quick impression. Sometimes it's easy to be like, hi, this is who I am, this is what I do. I don't have a lot of time. Here you go. When you come back from a convention, you got 50 emails, you're like, oh, goodness, how many of those did I give away? And I wouldn't be nervous about talking to developers. The only ones that I've ever had that have been difficult are the larger ones, and they are because they are very matter-of-fact, and they are looking for very specific things, and they know what they want from the start. So if you go up and you're like, hi, we're a roleplay guild, and they're like, hi, nice to meet you, here's my card, we'll see you later. Like they don't need that sort of feedback. They're not potentially looking to even grow into that. They're not going to just push you off, but that's not the strongest place for them to be focusing on. I would not be nervous to talk to anybody, though, and to at least go up and try to find the right person. And on the floor is great. In a party, afterwards, at a dinner, that's even better. When you can just say, like, hey, can I have, 5 minutes of your time? Here's the deal. I'd like to talk to you. I mean, these are people, too. And most of the time at night, they're super busy. I find that if you buy a drink and you walk up to one of them, or you're like, hey, what do you want? And you bring one up, you're going to be fine. So
Coffee.
Yeah, I need coffee.
Are we talking in person, the easiest way to approach developers, or just in general?
Well, you can kind of do it both ways, because we've had someone who's approached us before and said, I'd love to get in touch with developers, but there are no game conventions near me. I have no real way to quickly hop on a plane and fly to Germany in order to meet these developers. Yet, I'd like to reach out to them. I kind of want to give just one piece of advice. If you do end up meeting people at game conventions and the developers do give you cards, or the community manager does give you a card, be patient with them after the convention. Don't expect them to return your call, quote unquote, in 24 hours, because think about how many people were there, and the fact that not only do you have to take care of what it takes to lead up to the event, you have to take care of the breakdown of it is going to be very difficult. I tend to, in my personal thing, and this is just what I do for MMOBuff, and this is how I work with this, because Enigma I handle completely different, but with MMOBuff, I usually give at least a week, and then I go, hey, hopefully you've recovered from Conflu. Because seriously, who doesn't get Conflu or Confplague when everyone gets together from various places? It's just the easiest way to spread germs ever. Sorry for germaphobes out there. I'm just telling the truth. Give them time, and then be patient. If I don't hear back from somebody, depending on who it is, especially if they said, you need to get in touch with me, then I'll contact them the week after and just poking in, seeing if you're there. But if you know that they're going to be really busy, give them a month and go just checking in. Be patient. Please be patient.
It's good to assume that developers are always busy, even though sometimes they aren't. And it's not that they don't want feedback, but sometimes they are just really busy and they don't have time to talk about stuff. And that's actually one thing I would advise is that if you want to talk about something, think about it. Think it through very thoroughly, and have the bullet points ready, this is what I'm presenting to you, this is what I would like to see change, just show us that you've actually thought about every aspect of it, and not just from your perspective, but from other people's perspectives too, because for us that means oh, they actually thought about this, they put time and effort into this, piece of feedback or event that they like to plan or whatever, and that tells us oh, we can trust them easier, it's easier for us to translate that.
Right, and I have to agree with Allie. I think one of the most important aspects of connecting with the developer, whether it's via the community manager or in some fashion on the forums, know what you want. What are you looking for? Are you looking, maybe you're running a guild and you want to do a Q&A with someone who worked on the guild features for the game that you love. Come prepared with those questions. Send the email with that information in there. Talk about how long it'll be. Talk about when you're thinking about having them on. The hardest conversation to have is someone who's like, hey, do you have time to talk? And then I'll say, sure, yeah, let's talk. Well, what do you think about live streams? Well, I think that they're weird because I have a ginormous forehead, and so I generally I don't do them. And we go back and forth in this conversation, and finally I'm just like, what do you want? I mean, what are you looking for? That long-term discussion as to, well, what day is good for you? Well, no, what day is good for you? Well, why don't you tell me about you and know you? I mean, just lay it all out. Have the questions ready. No, map it out. I mean, I got to tell you, having participated in a lot of live streams and Q&As and those kinds of things, you Campfire peeps have your shit together. I mean, we knew what we were coming into, even though the audio is, rough on my end.
We blame them.
Very well prepared. So I think that there is some wisdom in, let's remove as much of the mystery as to what it is you're after, and if it's just feedback, that's just feedback. Feedback being one of the most crucial parts of game development. If it's feedback, say, I've got some feedback for you. I've prepared it. I'd like to email it to you, or it's here in this particular area of the forums, or I'd just like to talk to you because you're awesome and I enjoy, what you said online, or whatever it is. Just get to the point and make sure you're clear about what you want, so that the community manager or developer can get what you're saying. Now, if you're nervous, you have to understand that game developers are gamers just like you. Seriously. Community managers have a long and most community managers, I mean, there's a lot of new folks out there, but we are experienced with talking to people who are shy, who are a little awkward, because we're a little awkward. We're gamers. We're huge nerds. So don't be afraid, because you're gonna find out that person is actually just a real nerd like you.
Okay.
I scared a dev who didn't really know me this weekend at PAX, because I'm just like, I know you guys, and this one guy was like, who is this guy? He's freaking me out. And I was like, yeah, we're all friends, yeah. And this one guy was like, does he always act like this? I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Hey, nice to meet you. On Blankspace. I had to reel it in. It was so funny.
Well, yeah. the insights into Blank's mind.
It does come a point where it does come a point where you get that used to it that you end up just. Sorry, am I lagging?
You're bouncing all over the place. Your camera went. We all moved positions. Everyone's now back into a position. Now you're gone again. Now Blank is gone, and now he's in the right place. Congratulations, Screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I broke everything, didn't it? I do
Don't touch
apologize.
anything.
I'm touching all the
move.
things.
Please, no.
No, he did it again.
No, see now you're Blank. Screen.
I'm Blank. That's
See?
absolutely fine by me. Look at me. I'm Blankspace. I talk to all the devs.
I just have to add, this comes right after Troy goes, you guys got your shit together. Ka-ching!
Hey, wait, live is tough. Live is tough.
Oh, it
Yes,
is.
But you were prepared.
I would ask though, in all seriousness, does it make it easier to talk to people both in the flesh and through other mediums like live streams and boards if the people have they've got a history of being part of a community already, and you've got an idea of what you're getting into as a community manager when you engage with them, like, I don't know, when certain Vikings show up at PAX and start running along shouting, "Talk to me!"
It's
I gotta tell
reputation,
you,
isn't it?
it is totally like we were talking about earlier. It really is reputation. Dawn and I, Blank and I, have had a lot of great interactions. Going all the PAX East and PAX Prime, and he's been a big part of what I've done. As a community manager. I haven't met Screen before now.
Oh, you have.
I have?
You have at Gamescom.
Was I drunk?
You might have been a little bit. You saved my entire guild from queuing for the WildStar event.
Oh, right. Now, I don't remember you specifically. But I do. But
This is where that reputation
I do
comes into
remember.
play.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say, I mean, my point being, having known you folks in your various other personas and the things that you do online, when I was invited to be a part of that, I was like, of course, I know these people, and I trust these people. So, being around and making those connections doesn't always have to be at a trade show or at a convention, but being a part of what's going on, critical or not, but friendly, and that definitely opens doors for you with developers.
Yeah, it really does, and I've definitely had that awkward moment at PAX where I walked up to a shoutcaster and I was like, "Hey, I'm Allie Murdock, and I'm from ArenaNet." That was back a couple of years ago, and I was like, and he was just like, "Hi." I was like, "Oh, let me explain to you what I actually do." And then it was like a more comfortable conversation. So it actually happens to developers too.
Yeah.
And let me assure you all that when you get more used to talking to developers, you will develop that Blankspace habit of just walking up to people, and you get no fear after a while. You should see the number of emails I send off for the Campfire that don't get responded to, and you just take it on the chin at the end of the day, because people, like it's been said, they might be busy, they might not know who you are, and at the end of the day, without being blunt, well, no, I'll just be blunt.
Please do.
Developers get a lot of crazies that want to talk to them, and if they don't know who you are, they might not respond to you because they might go, "Don't know who that is." Might be a crazy.
Yes. I do want to stress, though, do not feel that you have to go out and find a well-known guild or a community to start getting involved. You have to start somewhere. Every single one of us has started somewhere. Don't be afraid. Take the time, build the reputation, and just be aware that at some point you will crest and you will be able to do the type of interactions you want. It is not an overnight thing. You must be willing to work towards it. You get in what you put, or you get out what you put in. And
I will say, as a community manager, I tend to notice individuals first, and then their guild association later.
unless you're Screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're me.
Yeah, well, no, I recognize the guild association, absolutely, and then, but I'm serious about that, like interactions on forums, thoughtful notes, and sometimes it's okay just to send a note that says, really appreciated what you did. I mean, don't kiss ass, because we know when you're kissing ass. But authentic appreciation is, rare. And so if you've got a little bit of that and you want to share it with the community manager, do that. And I would encourage you to do it privately, because if you do it in a forum space or on Twitter, someone's going to respond, then you'll become the target of, the trolls.
Hate. Yeah. Now, before we go into our Kumbaya section where we bring up events that are occurring that we want people to be aware of, there are two things. One, do you guys have time to stick around for some Q&A afterwards from our viewers and things like that? Brilliant. So we can breeze through this part real quick. Now, we let our guests pick out the Trailblazers. Now, these, you guys get to brag about anything, any community, any guild, any website, anything you wish to talk about. I'm assuming there's a particular thing you guys might want to make mention of. I don't know. Maybe.
Tell us about it all.
Maybe.
Wow, that's a tough one. Well, no, the first question is not tough. There are some really awesome people doing some incredible stuff that I'm awful fond of. I do want folks to keep their eyes on Rev Gamer. They're going to be kicking stuff off here fairly shortly and doing some active community-based stuff. And I love the Mog Nation guys. Super great group of people. Allie, do you want to add some?
I was just going to point out Motiga Unleashed. I just learned about them, and I think what they're doing is pretty cool.
Get the bragging now.
You stole my big finale, but Motiga Unleashed guys, I gotta tell you that they have embraced the team and what they've done to support my efforts to build community around what we're doing here and to showcase we've got some of the most phenomenal staff in the industry, and I defy you to find a studio that has as rich a history in gaming from top to bottom. It's an all-pro group. Really. That isn't to say that other studios aren't wonderful, but I'm truly impressed. I'm truly impressed with our pedigree and the amazing things that people have cooking on their resumes. That in our game is awesome. That being said, Motiga Unleashed has really, out of a curiosity and a respect for what we've got as a team, has put together a great site. And I will say this. Started with, I think there are 4 or 5 people who are working together to do this Motiga Unleashed thing, and when people at the studio saw it, they were humbled and excited and wanted to share more information and wanted to get some audio out from our game, wanted to do some stuff, and they were more inclined to do it when there were people clamoring for it. So just goes to show you, you don't have to have a 3,000-person organization to make an impact on a studio.
Absolutely. Okay, and for our next part, I wanted to point out that the lovely Screen made mention of something to me, and I kind of went, ooh. This is what is coming up. We've done Healing Over Time. Healing Over Time has occurred. It has happened. The record was smashed for raising money for Child's Play. You guys are awesome.
It was a long 24 hours.
It was a very long 24 hours, and we're heavy supporters of anything from communities that are helping to raise awareness that gamers are not just trolls. There is so much more to us than that. So when I was told there's another charity event going on, of course, what do I want to do? I want to make certain everyone knows about it. So Screen, tell us a little bit about this MS Toga party that's going to be going on.
Sure. There's an organization called Gamers Giving Back. You may have heard of it. It's a charitable organization. There are a group of players in Guild Wars 2 at the moment who are going to be running a what's called an MS Toga party to raise money for multiple sclerosis. Yes, I said it right. I'm sorry, I can never say it properly. April, I am a product of the Scottish education system, so I am lucky that I can put my own clothes on in the morning. And I'm allowed to type money.
We weren't even going to go there this stream, and you went ahead and took us there.
I am in before anyone else. Cards on April the 19th between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. CDT. They've got a number of in-game activities. They do run the Toga Party intermittently throughout the year, so it happens on and off throughout the year. But it is a fantastic charity. They've got a number of prizes within the game. They're going to be doing some trivia, costume contests. They're going to have a scavenger hunt, and there's a video contest going on at the moment. If you go over to toga.gamersgivingback.com, you can have a look at what they've got on. If you are in the EU, it will be on Guild Wars 2 on the Desolation server, and on the NA, it's on Henge of Dinrabi. I'll put the link in chat for you. And yeah, if you have the game, feel free to drop by and support them.
Yes, please do. And that's the thing, you know, communities can do so much. Yeah, you can just get together, you can sit back and get drunk. That's a community in its own right. But you can also sit back, get drunk, and make money for charitable events. For the kids, for the people who are suffering from multiple sclerosis. I know I will be involved in the cancer one that's happening in November for Movember. All because they're all very dear and close to my heart due to things that family has gone through. But that brings us to the very end of the typical campfire. And this is where I get to tell you guys about all the crazy things that are coming up, including the fact that tomorrow we're dealing with shamans in Top Draw. Friday, we've got Mizpah back. Gazimov's not going to be with us because he's on vacation, but hopefully Kai Dream will be around to talk Wildstar and Cosmotronic. And then next Monday, I hope to have Mizpah back so that we can do stuff on MMOBuff and go beyond what we were talking about in loot distribution systems and things like that. Now, there's one last thing I have to add as part of everything, and that is for anybody who is actually interested in getting your hands on a collector's edition of Reaper of Souls, our contest is active. Sweepstakes K-Go! Yay! Now that that's done, we can end the campfire, and then we can have questions from everybody in the audience who would like to. Are you back?
We're back.
Am I back? Are you back?
You are.
I'm like, everyone just froze for me. This is really sad. No. Figures. Luckily, it's at the end of the show, though, because now we can go into this. If you guys have questions for everybody, please put a Q and a colon so that we can pull from them. But what we're going to do is end this show so everyone gets to say goodbye in a manner that best suits them. And then we will come back and literally pick the brains of two of our industry's finest. So, yes. So,
yeah, me and Blank, we'll answer all the questions.
We'll try to answer as much as we can, guys. You know, we're always here.
Absolutely. Okay, so go ahead and, you know, Troy, Allie, you guys, thank you so much for stepping into the show to share your wisdom, really, and spread knowledge, because, yeah, you guys have some experience under your belts that really helps everyone else. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. What you guys are doing is really awesome, and I hope it continues. I think there's a lot of really good knowledge and information on these shows, so I'm excited.
Thank you.
You're gonna make me
Well,
blush.
I'm absolutely honored that you guys invited me. I was really excited to introduce Allie as part of the Motiga team, and this is the best venue for it. I really, really love what you're doing. I don't think that there are venues right now, a lot of venues, as we said earlier, for discussing how to do community right on all levels. And I think the more of this that we have, the healthier we are as humans and as leaders of people and as communicators. So good work.
You're gonna make my entire team blush. Great. Blank, would you like to say goodbyes to everybody?
Thank you, Vikings, for showing up. Thank you, folks, for hanging out for this amazing, awesome exclusive of me getting to meet Allie and seeing Troy, who I love dearly and love to send him trolley videos from YouTube every once in a while.
Yeah.
Looking forward to whatever is behind this little screaming dinosaur dragon thing in the future. And it was really great to be able to ask a couple of questions and get feedback from folks that, you know, aren't just there to make people feel better in the forums, but actually that they're driving amazing communities. So,
Thanks, dude.
Go ahead, Screen.
Thanks everyone for turning out. It's been fantastic tonight. It was nice to talk to you once again, Ali. It's nice to talk to you once again, Troy, no matter how much you burned me. And always lovely to talk to you, Pseudo, and well, you know.
Okay, well, like I said, thank you so much, Troy, and thank you so much, Ali. And honestly, Ed, Blank, I couldn't do these shows without you. You guys are like my heart, so thank you. Even if you do troll the heck out of each other and me.
Can have a pumpkin heart. It's the worst one on the internet, so there you go.
Yay, pumpkin hearts!
I don't have enough cholesterol. Maybe I should go and get a stick of butter for a Scottish heart.
Right, I am so sorry. But anyway, I also want to give a huge thanks to you guys directly. Those of you who show up, who watch us on YouTube, and who watch us live. You guys, this is why we do it. And remember, if you have any questions, scenarios, even if you want to be on the show, we like having people on to talk about their experiences. Please contact us, voice@MMOBuff.TV. Come to the campfire and light it with us. Now, we're going to do the little thing where it does the quote-unquote cut for YouTube for our post editors so that they can just do cut for YouTube. And then we'll be back, and we've got some questions about capybaras that we must definitely tackle. So, be right back, folks. So easy. Transition, let the hair down, the campfire is now like, and it's post-show. Bring out the drinks, bring out the dead. Yeah, everyone stop sitting properly.
Right, yeah.
Post-show for the drinks? No. This started out as a joke and suddenly I'm most of the way through this.
I am not surprised. I'm really not.
It's only
it's not because you're
here,
Scottish.
not like a beer.
It's only 1:17, stack it. I'm
o'clock
doing exactly that. Are you seriously doing next Friday's show from the Meltdown?
Don't know.
It's so not going to happen.
I have no.
I mean, I'll help.
I don't know.
There's.
Despite the fact that I really this is where I get to show my community management side. It may or may not occur. You may or may not know anything about this. This may or may not happen. You'll have to just tune in and find out.
Really? Because I'm going to be the one doing most of the carrying if it's...
Naughty screen. See, there you go. That's one way to handle it. Another way is for me to just end his call and go, sorry, screen disconnected. There's no way I can answer your question right now.
Blame it on my internet.
Okay, so enough that. We've got some questions for you guys. This is from Robert Robots. I keep calling you Robert. I know your Robots hates me, but I keep calling you Robert for some strange reason. Anyway, he says, I am curious to know what sort of thing community managers can do for a guild, and what can a guild do for the community managers?
It's a long list.
It's a two-way street, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. I think the most important thing for guild leaders to know is feedback is hugely important. And so collect it from your group. Throw up a SurveyMonkey. Have the people who are a part of your guild collect their opinions and thoughts and share them. Post a survey on or survey results rather on a forum. Be legible in the way that you communicate issues. That's really important stuff to us.
Yeah,
I think.
Sorry, go on, Ali.
I was also going to add that, set a good example for your peers.
Yes, that's a good one.
But you guys are peerless.
What's from a guild leader's perspective? I'll be quick because I think Blank's going to go in like 2 minutes. But from a guild leader's perspective, what we like to see from community managers is that we like to see communication back. What frustrates me the most, for example, if you're in say an open beta, for example, and all you get from a games company is go and play the game, and you just like,
yeah.
So what am I doing here? I'm like, dude, what do you want us to do? We like to help you, but what would communication back to community managers from community managers to guild leaders when we want to make the effort is something that's invaluable from our point of view.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
you're absolutely right. And I will say that it is a crime that many community managers and studios commit when they don't direct what they're looking for, and when they get that feedback that they don't respond with why or what we're doing to address those things. It definitely, there are some studios and organizations that will make changes and not even share the impact, and then when they get the feedback for it, they'll talk about it internally, but they'll have policies that don't allow them to be transparent about why they're making the decisions that they are.
Like I've said before, trolls will troll either way, but it makes a vast difference to the people that are actively wanting to engage if they get that feedback. Like as difficult it is to get to engage with forum posts, still the CDI that ArenaNet do, for example, is it was a great decision for them to do that because they've now got two-way conversation with their own community.
That's an important thing. Now, I know poor Blank does need to go pick up the tiny Viking princess. So I'm going to make a suggestion to you, Blank. Instead of just dropping out, you can actually turn off your camera and mute your mic, and that way we don't have to worry about everyone's pictures bouncing all over the place, because I do have a couple more questions for these lovely individuals here.
Sure.
But
I wanted to toss one little thing in there, because they are talking about guilds to community managers. My big one is this. I've hardcore tested alpha, friends and family tested for a long time. What I always drive and say, now that I'm doing community stuff and it's much different, but from a lot of the invites I got into games early was to test stuff. Please, if you go from a testing environment and then that grows into the community stuff, please know where you're going with that. There's nothing more frustrating than running a hardcore guild or an organization or a community and sitting halfway through a testing process, and this is years. For some of these games, we're talking, I was doing this for 2 years before it became out, before it was whatever. Know where you want to go, and then just let people know where it is. Even if it's like, we're in stasis, bro, hold on. I can't tell you how many times it's been... we're in the middle. We are in a holding pattern above, testing land. We're driving this feedback, and we haven't heard from you in a month. That was always my biggest one. But yeah, I'm going to try to turn off
all you have to do is pause your camera, because it'll turn it black. So instead of turning it off, you pause it. See, now you're paused. And then you just have to mute. And by the way, Blank, hearts to you, and I hope to catch up with you soon. And thank you so much for coming again.
Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Bye, guys. Nice to meet you, Allie.
Likewise.
Bye, Ed.
Bye.
I did have a question for Screen. I had a question for Screen. What's a beta?
A beta?
Yeah, you just said something about a beta?
Betas are betas.
A beta.
Betas
What?
and betas are the same things, just different pronunciations.
Oh.
I thought you were. I thought you were
he was
trolling me. I
trolling.
thought you
I
were
thought he
doing.
was Okay.
Alright.
Okay, we just got double trolled.
Now,
I
see,
know,
that's,
triple troll,
I
actually.
That's
accept this.
trollception.
I get trolled so often.
Trollception,
They
I
go
love
to
it.
troll me, and it goes right over my head, which makes the trolling even easier for them, because I don't get that I'm getting trolled. I'm supposed to go to troll boot camp, and I still haven't attended it, so we'll see what ends up happening, but oh, wow. So, question, this is from Katamari, and this is for both you, Troy, and for Allie. What led you to your current positions as community managers? Was it a conscious decision that you built a resume towards, or just a natural turn of events for you? And what I'd like to add to that myself is, why community management? Because it's one thing to say, I'm going to go out there, get involved in the gaming industry, and this is the easiest way to do it, or not. But I just like we say on our show, on our other shows, we want our game developers to be passionate about gaming. I want my community managers to be passionate about community. That's my personal take on it. So why, and also how?
You go first, Allie.
So, I already explained my background is in guild leading, and that was something that I absolutely loved. And community management was kind of like a step up. But I actually did not start, when I started in the industry, I started as QA. And, I did competitive community management for ArenaNet before coming to Motiga. And, I started as QA there, and I realized, I really enjoyed the community aspect, and I loved talking to the players and communicating and stuff like that. And so I started kind of doing that more, and then I started focusing more on PvP. And then it was kind of just like we actually just need you on this all the time. And I was just like, yes. That was like kind of my plan. Like, just like maybe if I just start doing it, like it'll be okay. And then they recognized that I had a knack for it, and and it was something that for a PvP community it's really important. Engagement is really, really important because that's what PvP is. It's people. So, so for me, I think the exciting part about community is just that it makes a game. It's what life is about, and it's not just like it's in real life. It's important to have that community, that place where you feel like you belong, like you relate to the people. And I think people do that through video games, and I think it's really cool.
Okay.
So how I got started in the industry is actually kind of interesting. My background, human services, working with all age groups from kids at camp to senior citizens, building real life communities. While in what I would do to sort of because that could be pretty stressful and heartbreaking sometimes. And so what I do is I go home and play video games, and games like Ultima Online or Dungeon Keeper or StarCraft, or just all the games that I would invest. I should actually go through and list all of the games that kind of got me through some of the more tense and emotionally traumatizing bits of working in the human services field. But then I noticed this online community management position. Like, I was paying attention to these people who were responsible for building community and discussing what games were about and what was going on behind the scenes. And I thought I could do that, and so applied for a position and got it, and never looked back. I think for me, I don't know that I'm suited for any other job but to blab about stuff and be obnoxious and have fun and drink a lot with strangers. That's sort of my MO. But at the end of the day, like I couldn't tell you why. I just really love it. I really love the work. I love the opportunities that I'm given. And I just like people. So I like to meet new people and kind of get into their heads and find out what they're all about. And that's why I keep doing it.
It's so nice to hear about the passion and just simply, I like this stuff. We will throw this question in, and then we'll go to Isku, who's got for some reason, chat decided to make it a frowny face. It's not really a frowny face question. It's actually a happy face question, but So T. Arctic wants to know, do you realize the importance of using protection? And then he makes a sort of hyaw, hyaw, hyaw kind of a noise, at which point it is immediately followed by, what were you thinking about? I was talking about armor, shields, and stuff.
Oh, yes, that's important as well.
Wow. Wow.
And stay in school, kids.
In school. I do want to know, I've had so many people sending me messages through like Skype and Twitter and stuff who haven't been able to put all the messages because there's something with Twitch chat. We have had someone who wants me to give you a very personal thank you to both you two because they have gotten so much from your advice and your suggestions. And I think some of that also comes because talking about how do you handle negative feedback is so important. And I think people are afraid of conflict. I personally think conflict is empowering when handled well and handled appropriately. If you shy from conflict, no growth can be had. So, at some point in time, we are going to have to do a show about conflict and conflict resolution, and I may have to pull out my school books. Good grief. But it would be lovely to actually teach people how to hold a good conflict, not combat. There's a huge difference because combat people don't communicate. Conflict, someone has points they want to get across. But yes.
And honestly, nobody loves conflict. I think we'd all like a world where we all just got along, but we all know that that's not the case.
It would be boring because
so-
I wouldn't have people like Screen, and I wouldn't have Blank, and they wouldn't troll me because we'd all get along
Right?
just so well, and it would suck. So, I like my troll
Say
conflicts
no-
there.
Admit
Yeah.
to nothing.
Well, that just says it all. Okay, so we got that one, and Isku's question, which was unfortunately turned into a frowny face. If you had to choose only one, what was the most challenging situation / thing you've ever had to deal with as a community manager? Now, if you need to change names, protect the innocent, or whatever you need to do, but challenges are going to come to you. You guys deal with challenges all the time. You're managing people. That's herding cats. It makes a difference whether you're talking about the developers and their access to the community or the community vice versa. But challenging, the most challenging thing. And Allie keeps going first, Troy, so let's put you on the spot. You go first this time.
I would say one of the most challenging moments that I've had in my career was it was working on The Matrix Online, a game that should have done better than it did. The promise of that game was unfortunately not necessarily reached, but we had good times and a lot of great things happened as a result of live events and some other great stuff. But a person got really angry about a change that was made in the game and called in a bomb threat to the studio head, and to me directly on my phone line, just because they were angry about something. Now, I don't normally take those things very seriously, and I've been known to actually call a person at their home and say, "What's going on, buddy? Why are you so explosively angry about something? Can we talk?" 9 times out of 10, you're going to find out that there's something else going on, and they're channeling their rage into what they think is an anonymous venue. But sadly, when you play games, we know a lot about you. We oftentimes have your phone number. We will. When you
Know where you live.
we do know where you live, so remember that when you decide to be a jerk. We will call you. I will, anyway. But the hard part about it was, it turned out that this particular person was suffering from a long-term debilitating illness and just made a bad choice. But unfortunately, the way that choice was made, that person got in some serious trouble. When you call the head of a studio, an executive, and you threaten them, we had to take the name of the studio down. We had security guards, all of this because a person in a moment of weakness made a bad choice. And sometimes those bad choices are, life impacting and life altering. I felt really bad for that person. But there was nothing I could do in my position, were I in charge of the world, I would have gotten that person some help as opposed to legal remedies. But that really impacted me for a long time and reminded me that even though someone is attacking you or being unreasonable or being bizarrely aggressive, there's more to the story.
Wow. That's a heavy one to follow up behind there, Allie.
Yeah, that's, I've actually been through something very similar to that where we had to ban someone from a tournament because he made a joke about bringing an AK-47 to our event. And even though it was pretty clearly a joke, you can't
There are certain lines
you can't take that risk. You can't take that risk. And, and it just sucks because, I think we kind of ended up looking like the bad guys to the people because people thought he was funny, but they don't realize that, it's human beings on the other end of that threat, and even if it's a joke or, whatever, it's very serious, and you should never threaten, even in jest, to do something like that.
Yeah.
As for a personal experience, there's been a few ones like that where, I'm trying to think because some things I shouldn't talk about.
Like I said, you can always change names, directions, or skirt over it. How about this? We'll take Troy's advice. Let's go to the heart of what actually occurred instead of what actually occurred and see if we can't find the answer to it that way.
So I'll just take this one. And this is not probably a very common thing that happened, but I was recently on leave from my job at ArenaNet, and I had already established myself as the community coordinator for the community. And when I came back, I had to reestablish myself, and it was something that we actually kind of touched on earlier, which is like, people receive you better if they already know you and you've already established a reputation.
Yeah.
And so when I came back and I went back into, picking up where I left off, and it didn't translate to people, they didn't remember that much, because 3 months is a lot of time. And so, I think coming back, I had to reestablish myself, and I had to explain, like, this is what I'm about, and try to, regain that respect. And that's a huge deal for a community manager, because, if people don't believe you, or they don't trust you, then, why are you here?
Right.
Like, it's really important. And so I basically had to, go on live stream and just kind of do a little Q&A of like, this is what I do. And it was kind of awkward for me because, like, I'm not someone that really likes to talk about myself. And so, but I was just like, how do I make this not sound like I'm just sitting here listing off the things that I'm, like, working on and my philosophies and stuff like that. So that was definitely a tough one for me, because it was also very emotional, because I put so much into the job, and then I went on leave and came back, and it was just like I felt like almost all of that effort was gone, and I was just like, no, So I think that was a tough one, but in the end, I think people really appreciated me going on and doing that Q&A, and it turned out all right.
Trust is a hard thing to maintain, especially on the internet. It is.
Mm-hmm.
And
People do have very short memories.
They do have
and
incredibly short memories.
And it was very disconcerting from a player-based perspective when Ali went on leave, because it wasn't probably the best communicated that she was going on leave, and that there's kind of a break, and then players being short of memory, they just kind of like, and it happens, but it definitely was tough, but it was handled quite well in the end when it came around to it at the end of the day.
The thing to remember, if you have someone who, in that particular case, who's going on leave or what have you, it's okay for players to stop playing the game whenever they want, for however long they want, for whatever reasons they so desire to stop. But, oh my gosh, heaven forbid the lead PvP person go on vacation. Heaven forbid the community manager take a day off. Heaven forbid. It's such a... It goes back to even inside guilds and communities. Oh, heaven forbid the guild leader actually go on vacation. Heaven forbid the guild leader's not at my beck and call 24 hours a day because they need to be. They're supposed to be there for me to tell them what to do. Come on, people.
I think also, given the very public nature of what we do,
Yes.
oftentimes people will look for the scandalous details, and that's why for me, I've just, I've had the luxury of being able to communicate very clearly when I transition from one job to another, why I'm doing that. My transition from Carbine to Motiga was rough because I love those guys and deeply, genuinely believe that they've created a really phenomenal game. And so transitioning, back home and being with family, I, was blessed enough to have connected with people I worked with here at Motiga. But oftentimes, even though you are as transparent as possible, people will add their own little salacious details to why they think you moved on, or why you disappeared, or what's gone on. And I've had a lot of people go, "What? You're back in Seattle? What happened? Oh no, boy, I knew something was going on, and must be some trouble at the studio," and all the things that people say, and it's
just because someone decides to change jobs doesn't mean there's something wrong with the company.
Or the person.
Or the person, just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Cool Man would like to know, now I'm not sure if community managers get to know a lot of future plans, for example, for a game, but is it hard to talk to people or community and not spoil future events and releases and break NDA. But I will also throw in, isn't it also fun to occasionally slip in the small little detail and let everyone go crazy occasionally as well?
It's one of the secrets in our bag of tricks, where we will, there might be something more, a deeper meaning or a deeper thing. For instance, we just released some audio from our phenomenal audio artiste here at Motiga. Mateo is his name. There might be something in there that you want to listen to. I don't know. There might be some new art on the website. There might be some cross-section or some intersecting information that you might want to dig into there. But that happens. And yes, it is hard not to tell you everything because we really want to talk about it.
Do you know how hard it is?
Sometimes
don't
it's fun.
Don't mention the fact that Allie's going to be on the show. Don't say. I'm sitting there going, "There's a guest coming. You want to be here for this? There's a guest coming."
Yeah.
It is really hard, just from our perspectives as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be really hard, but I think as a community manager, we try to find like the little loopholes and just kind of hint at things and be like, you should pay real close attention to this one thing.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like nothing. But, there's a balance. Like, you have to be careful about doing that because sometimes you just drive people crazy.
Yes. And of course, T. Arctic now wants to know, what are you working on? In 1 second. Bless you, Gwens. But he wants to know what you're working on. And I'm going to let you give your community matter responses for this.
We're making a game!
Yes, we are making a game. We can confirm we are making a video game.
It has sound and art.
It does have colors and shapes. It is a PC title. It's fun.
It's really fun.
It's pretty.
It's...
Oh, dear. Would it be fair to say...
Hold on. Go ahead, Troy.
All right.
Well, I was just going to say use a keyboard and a mouse.
So, to be a community manager, you need to be a good troll.
Yes, pretty much.
Go ahead, Screen.
Is it fair to say that after a while, as a community manager, you start to learn just how where the line is? You learn how to sidestep questions without really having to think about it too much. I think it's fair to say that some of the members of Campfire have been under NDAs for long enough to have picked up a similar sort of skill, and when talking to people about certain things, you develop the ability to be falsely surprised by things that have happened.
I'm sorry. Zenford just said monitors not confirmed.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Our Oculus Rift plans have been exposed.
Now see, it's little things like that everyone's going to go, oh my goodness.
What, just one Oculus Rift, not Oculi?
Is that how you pronounce it?
I
don't know.
There is one question for you, by the way, Allie. Someone would like you to grab the plant behind you and hug it because they swear they think they know what that plant is because the way we've cut the video makes it look like something that it is not. So is it possible to have you pull the plant a little closer so they can be introduced to your plant of awesomeness?
I thought you were going to say they knew the plant. I was like, what?
Can you see it?
It is not marijuana.
No, it is not.
Weed.
Aiko has a question for Troy. And sure. Aiko, you may remember from Immortalis Noctis, also a member of the MMO Buff team, might I add. Hearts to you. As a community manager, do you find mastery over social media tools helps? I mean, the ability to not tweet about personal phone numbers and the such.
I don't know what you're talking about. Don't call me. At some point you just have to embrace the fact that you're gonna screw something up or you're gonna tweet something you're not supposed to, and it just so happens that it was my phone number. So the great thing about that, though, I didn't get a bunch of trolls. I didn't get a lot of abuse. I got people going, "Hey, did you know you just tweeted your phone number?" I wish I should have actually collected all the tweets. They were all really nice. Absolutely did not mean to do it. I was working on my phone through Hootsuite and thought I was DMing a message to who was I talking to? I think it was Cash. In any event, the point being, yes, I do believe that mastery over social media tools is important. I haven't quite gotten there yet, so baby steps.
Yeah, there were a couple of times using Hootsuite where I would accidentally tweet to like the German Twitter or the alt language Twitters.
So this isn't just, I think, this isn't just Aiden's problem. Right, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Hootsuite is hard to use on mobile, I will say.
It is a little tricky.
That's why we don't use it. We use something else, actually. We use a completely different social management tool, Sprout Social, actually. Something to
Keyboard.
look at for people.
No.
We do use a keyboard, yes. But Tiardic would like to know can you add penguins, bacon, and coffee into the game? Is it single player? Is it multiplayer? Some people still have your phone number stored. Not that that's creepy or anything.
I'm going to check my phone here in a minute to see if I've got any texts.
Yeah, if anyone in the chat would like to send questions directly to Troy right now, you got like 5 more minutes.
Don't.
Nobody's done it yet, except for my brother. He can go away for now. Okay, so the question was penguins, coffee, and what?
Bacon.
Bacon.
Need to be put into the game.
Okay, duly noted.
And is it single player or multiplayer?
It is fun for friends.
It's Monopoly. They're making Monopoly.
That is linguistic etiquette in its finest right there. Absolutely beautifully done. Now, we're going to go ahead and close the stream so we can let you guys get back to work. Again, thank you guys so much. Do you have
Great
anything
questions,
you want to
everybody.
just throw out to anybody before we go ahead and head off stream?
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. It's been a hell of a lot of fun. We'll definitely be back again.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I will actually come prepared with more booze.
Maybe we can even talk more about the game.
Maybe.
And also, welcome, Allie. We're so glad you're here.
Yes, congratulations and welcome to the dinosaur breathing team.
I would say it's a shock, but I panicked more when Troy asked me how I knew.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we're
dear.
Facebook friends, right?
Yeah,
But
no
yes,
worries.
on that particular note,
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and let us drop off stream, and then we will catch you guys. Remember, this will go up on YouTube over in the next 48 hours. We have a lot of stuff coming from PAX that I need to take care of before I do the final edits on the Campfire. But once we're done, we'll have a quick bite. It'll be all up, and it'll be awesome. But yes,
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks
folks.
so much for having us.
Real quick question:
you,
does this
Yes.
camera make my forehead look big?
honestly,
Not at all. Only your lips.
see, I was just going to say I'm more noticing the nose than anything else.
Oh. Me too, actually. I could see it.
But then
It's
again,
like
I'm so used to
3D.
Scream being so close, I just see mostly his nose too. So maybe it's a thing.
Thank you, everybody.
But yes,
Thanks.
thank you guys. We'll be back soon.
Bye.
And now this is where I get to go. I'll be right back to you guys. And greetings, everyone. Thanks for watching the Campfire, episode 15, Foundations, with our special guests from Motiga, Troy, Aether, Hewitt, and Allie Murdock. If you like this, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to watch the previous episode, please click the bobbly heads in the top right up there. Toodle pip.